Hello everyone, Catweazle here, welcome to the channel and welcome to our new playthrough, which is a continuation of Descent Journeys in the Dark, 2nd edition, and we're going to use the app. So we will be using Road to Legend, which is here on the screen. So just a quick introduction to the app. So you've got new campaign, load campaign, store, collection, rules and quit, which are quite self-explanatory. The collection, you just put in whatever Descent stuff you've got and the app will then know what monsters and cards and map tiles and whatnot it can use. And obviously new campaign, you start a new campaign, you pick the campaign that you're doing, and then you will have the opportunity to save that campaign at points. Once you've saved it, you can then load it. And there is a store if you want to buy stuff. So here it is, it's absolutely free. So you can download it from an app store, you can download it from Steam, you can download it from loads of places. And it's absolutely free. That's not to say there probably won't be paid content in the future, but as it stands there are a couple of campaigns on there and they are both gratis. Right, before we actually get into the app itself and pick what we're going to do and all the rest of it, well, you know what we're going to pick because it's Rise of All Goblins, because you've seen it. But before we do that, let's introduce ourselves to the characters, our heroes. We're going to have 4 this time, not 3. Hopefully it will be a bit easier with 4. So let's introduce ourselves to our new characters. I've picked some new ones and I've picked some new classes. So we'll have a good look at our new heroes and then we will come back to the app. Okay. In no particular order other than alphabetically, first of all we have our healer character and that is Asherien. So here's Asherien, and looks like an elf to me I think, and she is going to be a spirit speaker. And let's have a look at all her abilities and stats. So she's got a move of 5, so she's pretty quick. She's got health of 10. She's got a stamina of 4. She rolls a grey defense die. She has willpower of 3, might of 2, knowledge of 2 and awareness of 4. Her hero ability: when a minion monster begins its activation adjacent to you, it is stunned. So that's pretty good. Heroic feat: as an action, choose a monster within 3 spaces of you. Each monster in that monster group is stunned. So everybody in the monster group, yeah. And it doesn't specify that that monster group has to be within 3 spaces, just one of the monsters. So that's pretty good. And let's flick it over. After she uses her heroic feat, then what we see is exactly the same card, but we get a bit of flavour text. I no more understand why I can hear the spirits speak than I can understand why you cannot. So that's Asherien. Let's have a look at her mini. So this is her mini. Let's see if she'll focus. So she looks pretty cool, doesn't she? So she's got a staff, decked out in green, pretty kick-ass. So she's got something like a fur cloak or something around her there. So she looks pretty cool. And as regards starting equipment, she has an oak staff. So a melee weapon, it's not ranged. It's a staff, but it does have reach. That means normally you have to be, when you do melee attacks, you have to be right next to a monster, you have to be adjacent, but this means she can reach up to 1 square away. So in a way it is ranged, but only very short range. On a surge, it gets +1 wound, it's double-handed, and she will roll a blue and a yellow attack die. So that's her oak staff. She also gets an ability, and the ability she gets is stone skin. So when you or a hero within 3 spaces of you is attacked, before dice are rolled, exhaust this card to add 1 additional grey die to that hero's defence pool. So that could be really helpful. But it does cost 1 fatigue. Right, so that is Ashrian, and she is our spirit speaker, who is a healer class. Let's go on to our next hero. And here is our next hero, and that is our warrior. It is Grisban the Thirsty. Now he's going to be a berserker because he's a dwarf, and look at him, he looks like he's going berserk, so he is our berserker. So let's have a look at his stats and abilities. So speed 3, he's only a little chap, but he has got health of 14, so it's pretty tough. He's got stamina of 4, he rolls a grey defence die. His willpower is 3, his might is very good at 5, his knowledge is 2, but his awareness is only 1. Let's have a look at his hero ability. Each time you perform a rest action, you may immediately discard 1 condition card from yourself. Excellent. He's got a heroic feat. Used during your turn to perform 1 attack action. This is in addition to your 2 actions on your turn, so we can get an extra attack. So not too bad, not too bad. Let's flip him over. Again, exactly the same, but obviously he does get a bit of flavour text. All this killing is thirsty work. Drink with me. Woohoo! So that is Grizban. Right, let's have a look at his mini. So here he is. As you can see, he's pretty much getting ready to go on the rampage. He's got his beer barrel, he's got his axe, he's just ready to rock and roll, baby. So that's Grisban. He's pretty cool. And talking of his axe, here's his weapon. So he's got a chipped great axe, melee weapon, and he's got 2 surges which are exactly the same, which are +1 wound. So he can use 2 surges on the same thing, but only because it is doubled. It's a 2-handed weapon, but it is a red and a blue attack die, so that's pretty good. So that's his weapon, and his ability, his starting ability is Rage. So as you can see, berserker class. When he performs an action, he can perform an attack with a melee weapon. This attack will gain +1 wound. So he just goes like bananas with his melee weapon in order to sort of inflict extra damage. That will cost him a fatigue to exert himself. Right, so that is Grisban, our berserker. Let's go to our next hero. And here is our next hero, Jane Fairwood, and she's going to be our scout character. She's going to be a wildlander. So let's have a look at her stats and abilities. So she's got 5 movement like Asherien, so she's pretty quick. She's got 8 health, so we might want her to hang back a bit. However, she does have excellent stamina at 5, and she rolls a grey defence die. As regards her attributes, she's got 2 in willpower, she's got 2 in might, she's got 3 in knowledge, but she's got 4 awareness. A hero ability: when you suffer any amount of wounds from an attack, you may choose to suffer some or all of that amount as fatigue instead. You cannot suffer fatigue in excess of your stamina. So for example, say it was the first time she got wounds put on her and it was 6, she could take 5 as fatigue. She can't take any more because she's only got 5 stamina. But that is a useful ability to have. Her heroic feat, as an action, you may move double your speed and perform an attack. So that's pretty good. This attack may be performed before, after, or during this movement. Cool. Let's just flip her over, read her flavour text. Out here in the wilds, I protect those who have misjudged me. So, they are. You can misjudge her and she'll still protect you. Isn't she brilliant? So that is Jane. Let's have a look at her mini. And there she is. And resplendent in purple and leather. A flame-haired ranger type by the look of it. So that is Jane Fairwood. Coolness. She has a short bow, so she's got a yew short bow, ranged weapon. On a surge, she can either have +2 range or +1 wound. Again, two-handed, and it rolls a blue and a yellow die. So that is her weapon, the yew short bow. For her initial ability, she is nimble. So each time a monster moves into a space adjacent to you, you may use this card to move one space, then the monster may continue its activation. And that would cost her 1 fatigue. So in order to use that, she'd probably want the monster to be at the end of its movement. So, but it's still pretty useful. She can do a bit of a... She can escape, essentially. And if she has plenty of fatigue... Yeah, it doesn't say you exhaust the card. So if she's got plenty of fatigue, she can keep moving away, I think. So that is nimble. Excellent. So that is it for Jane Fairwood. Let's go to our final hero. And here is our final hero, Leoric of the book, and he's our mage character. So let's have a look at him. The usual abilities, attributes, stats. So he's got a speed of 4, his health is 8, he's got stamina of 5, he rolls a grey defense die, he has 2 willpower, 1 might, but 5 knowledge and 3 awareness. He's a necromancer. And because he's a necromancer, that means he gets a familiar. And his familiar is this chap. He's a reanimate. So it's basically a skeleton warrior that you can call upon to do his bidding. His hero ability. Each monster within 3 spaces of you receives -1 wounds on all attack rolls to a minimum of 1. So that is excellent. His heroic feat, as an action, perform an attack with a magic weapon. This attack ignores range and targets each figure adjacent to you. 1 attack roll is made, but each figure rolls defense dice separately. So that's pretty good. He can sort of like do some sort of emergency blast which affects everybody adjacent to him. So that's pretty good. So talking of magic weapons, let's have... Oh, first of all, let's have a look at his mini. Here's his mini. So, for a necromancer, he's very colourful. He's got his book. He's also got like an arcane focus or something there in his other hand. And he looks like he supports Norwich City. So, there we go. That is Leoric of the book. Magic weapons. He has his Reaper's Scythe. So, ranged weapon, magic staff. Each time you defeat a monster with this weapon, recover 1 health. Brilliant. Doesn't need a surge for that. Just happens each time. And on a surge, he can get +1 range. Uses blue and yellow attack die, and it is 2-handed. So that is the Reaper's Scythe. As regards abilities, he has Raise Dead. And this is where the reanimate comes in. As an action, place your reanimate familiar token on an empty space adjacent to you. You may only control 1 reanimate at a time. You may discard your reanimate token at any time during your turn. And that costs him 1 fatigue. So that is Raise Dead. And we get a little card for this chap. And this is it. So it's like a small monster card. It's got 3 movement, 4 health, and it doesn't roll any defense, But that said, it's very rare indeed that a familiar gets targeted in this game, so it doesn't really need a defense die. This familiar is treated as a figure but cannot recover any amount of health, so we can't do healing magic on it, it won't work. Just think of it as a skeleton that's getting bones knocked out of it. Eventually it's just going to fall to the ground and there's nothing we can do about it. But we can always summon another one. It may perform one attack action during its activation, so it can move and attack, or just attack and then move, but it cannot do 2 attacks like a hero. Each attack made by this familiar on a surge gains +1 wound, and it's like a melee. Yep, it's like a melee familiar. It has to get adjacent to make that attack, but it does roll a blue and a red die, so does quite a bit of damage. So that's his reanimate for his familiar, and he gets a little token that we can move around the board. Right, so that is our party. Ashrian, Grisban, Jane and Leoric. They're ready to go. Are we? Let's find out. And here we are back at the app. So, talk through this very briefly. I won't go through the whole thing. There are several sort of playthroughs out there that will go through the things like the collection and the rules and stuff like that. As mentioned, Scouts 311 does a very good playthrough, and he does the collection and everything because he's got a huge collection. But as mentioned, I only have the core game, Labyrinth of Ruin and Shadow of Nerik Hall. So there are what's in my collection. But let's just crack on with the campaign. So what we do is we hit new campaign, and here we are at the campaign selection screen. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to turn it up now. I won't have this on all the time, but this is an idea of the ambient music that goes on in the background. So what we've got here is obviously some sort of cavern. Spooky, isn't it? So what we're going to do is going to pick Rise of the Goblins, and then we are going to select difficulty. Well, we're going normal, baby. And here we have a slot that I did earlier, but what I'll do is I'll get rid of that and we'll do it again from fresh. So press that. So first of all, what you do is you select your heroes. So we're going to pick a warrior first, I think. So we'll select that, and as you can see, I've got 4 to choose from. It knows, because I've inputted exactly what expansions and what have you that I have, it knows what figures and heroes I have. So we're going to pick Grisban. So he pops in down here. Next up, we want a healer. So I'll press healer, and as you know, we have picked Ashrian. After that, we have a scout, and that is Jane. And finally, we picked a mage, and we picked Leoric. So we've picked our group. So let's continue. And now we've got to pick what class they are. So we picked Berserker for Grizban. We picked Spirit Speaker for Asherien. We picked Wildlander for Jane. And we picked Necromancer for Leoric. Continue. And we've got to give them a group name. So I picked the Furious Four, because I couldn't think of anything better. So let's begin. Would you like to play the Road to Legend tutorial quest? We are going to, but I'm going to cut a lot of it out because there's like a lot of yabber goes on. So there will be quite a lot of editing. So it saves you having to look at every single piece of do this, do that, the monsters will do this. It's just basically teaching you the app. I'll cut all of that out because it's not very interesting to watch. But if you do notice a few more edits than usual, that's the reason why. Hopefully it'll hang together a lot better. Right, but we will play the tutorial.
Your adventure begins with a note shoved under your door, scrawled in large, unpracticed letters.
Hey, stupid heroes! Everything is terrible! The lair of all goblins has been overrun by wicked things that dumb heroes like you always fight. You must come here, beat them up, and break their things to stop the unthinkable, the end of all goblins. You obviously don't know where the lair of all goblins is, so I drew a map. Don't lose it. Your fearsome master, Splig.
The map is rough, but legible, leading to a place you clearly recognize as the Paragreth Ruins. Having nothing better to do, you gather your gear and depart.
So there we go. That sets up the quest nicely. Personally, I'd have told Splig to stick it where the sun don't shine. But fortunately our 4 heroes are made of sterner stuff. And they're going to take him up on this actual quest. But not this episode. Yes, let's leave it there, looking at the ugly Splig. There is a reason why I'm stopping it here. If you actually carry on, it's very difficult to stop. Because it's a tutorial. The tutorial doesn't go on for the whole campaign, but you'll go through into about 2 or 3 rooms before it actually gives you an opportunity to stop. So rather than do that and end up with a horrendously long episode, I'll stop it here, and then at the start of the next episode we shall begin, and then we will crack on with the tutorial quest. As I said, I'll cut out a lot of the explanation and stuff that goes on in the app. It is rather boring, and you probably know it anyway. It's just, as well as the basics of using the app, it's also the basics of actually, there's a few basics on actually how to play the game and stuff, which you don't need. So I'll cut that out. Generally, I'll only come back to show you the app when something like particularly app-like is happening that you may want to see. Otherwise, just like any other Descent, just like my previous playthrough, we will be looking at the actual tiles on the board. Finally, one final thing to mention, spoilers. Now, there's not as many spoilers as there are in Forgotten Souls or one of those co-op modules, mainly because the co-op modules are using a set amount of cards, set monsters, and a sort of, in a way, a set layout, because there are only so many tiles. You may get a bit of variation in the fact that one tile becomes before another, you know, that sort of thing, because you have to shuffle the deck. There's a bit more variation in Road to Legend, depending on how many expansions you have, because obviously it will pick from more tiles, it will pick from more monsters, more heroes, and so on. So the more content that you have, the more variation you will have. Again, I do not use the word random. It will not be random. There are set templates. So there will be a set template of a dungeon. It may vary a little. It may have slightly different rooms, different corridors. But generally, from what I can gather, it will be pretty much, you know, a set template that it's going from. So it'll want so many corridors, it'll want a big room to put a big bad in, that sort of thing. So you will get variability, but you will not get completely random. So from a spoiler point of view, there will be spoilers, especially in this introductory one. I have a feeling that this introductory little tutorial thing that we're going to do next time, I have a feeling that that's the same. But, you know, if you buy the app, that's what you're going to go through if you do the tutorial anyway. So it's up to you whether you want to continue watching. But fair warning, spoilers are ahead. So there you go. I've done my little bit. Right, thank you so much for watching. Thanks for all the help, support, pointing out errors, the views, especially the subscriptions, the likes, all that. Thank you so much. Thank you to everybody who stuck with the channel. That's brilliant. Additional thanks to all those who've gone over to Board Game Links to upvote the site. That's brilliant. Superb. Thank you so much. And that is it for the introduction and setup of Descent. Journeys in the Dark, 2nd edition, Road to Legend, Rise of All Goblins. I hope you join me next time for the start of the campaign, but until then, this is me, Catweazle, signing off. Toodaloo.